Okay, and we're here with Cris Derksen, one of our most followed and busiest composers working on the national and international scene. Cris uses cello playing in their compositions, as well as electronics and sampled sounds, and we are thrilled that Cris is one of our composers for NMC's 50th anniversary commissions for Distanced Ensemble. Cris, welcome to NMC.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Great. So we are so excited to have you on our series and to launch your wonderful video in about 10 minutes or so. So can you please tell us about your new work, Omiimiikaa, and what inspired you to create it? And please also correct my spelling and or
Yeah,
pronunciation. How do we pronounce
it's
Omiimiikaa, please?
Omimica.
Omimiikaa.
It's like
Thank you.
it's like Mimico.
Okay.
The piece will talk about Mimico, um, and the concept actually came. I was with my wife, and this was a grant conversation between you and me, and you were about fourth in line for that one granting round. So as a composer, when you get asked to write a piece, you have to come up with an idea, and I was kind of out of ideas. So I was like talking with my wife, and I was like, I don't know what to do, like I'm out of ideas. And we were actually in Mimico, at the like Humber Bay area, and there's a really great dog park there. So we were in Mimico, and she's like, well, how about you talk about the pigeons of Mimico? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, Mimico came from the Ojibwe word Omiimiikaa, which means lots of pigeons, or like heavy with pigeons. And so that's where the concept came from. Like my wife, actually, it was my wife's concept
Mhm.
entirely. So I just ran with it.
Great. Well, it's good to give Mimico some love. So give a shout out to anybody who's listening for Mimico here. So,
Yeah,
um,
I love Mimico.
yeah. So so how do you write your music and how do you write these pieces? Do you sit with your cello or at the piano, or sometimes these ideas come away from the instruments? Or maybe with software because you use a lot of technology too. So
Yeah.
how do you work?
I mean, it really depends on each different project. Like originally for this, I thought I was going to do a larger ensemble, more of like chamber kind of feel. But time kind of got away from me. And so I was like then relegated to like, what can, how can I make this and how can I make this quickly for deadlines? So then
Mhm.
it came back onto myself. Um, and I do a lot of theater work and I do a lot of dance work. So I do a lot of sound design in my regular practice. So speaking about pigeons, I know how to find good pigeon sounds on the internet for free. Um, so kind of started with the pigeons, and my software. Sometimes things start with the cello and sometimes
Mhm.
things don't. Again, it just depends on what the assignment is. Um, but this one was really freeing because I was allowed to basically do what I wanted to do. Um, and software is really fun. You can find so many good sounds and so
Mhm.
many like ways to make, like they're all like just tools in the toolbox, right?
Sure.
To create the story.
Sure. And it sounds like for this assignment, say this particular piece, the inspiration or it came out of did it come out of these pigeon sounds or manipulating those kinds of sounds?
Yeah, it came out of the pigeon sounds for sure. And I also use my friend Bryden Gweiss's powwow drums quite a lot in my work.
Hmm.
And I have a library of his sounds. So it was like a little bit of like manipulation of the pigeon sounds and well, I didn't really manipulate the pigeon sounds too much, but I definitely manipulated the drum to sound
Hmm.
like a train, and it like really clicked.
Hmm.
Um, and like thinking about colonization, and the whole story is about colonization,
Sure.
really. So thinking about colonization and Mimico, and like the train was actually a big part of the colonization of Mimico, and so and our country.
Sure.
um, so it was like little things just kind of fit into place. like very serendipitously for this piece. I had a lot of like, this is like probably the funnest piece I've done
Okay,
in a
well, that's
long
what we
time.
like to hear.
Yeah.
And well, I love the sound of that drum. Can you tell us about the instruments and the powwow drum, and we hear some other voices as well. Can you tell us a little bit about those and how they relate to the themes you're talking about in colonization of the area too?
Yeah, so I used Bryden's like big drum for this piece, and I basically get him, I've got like his hand drums in different tempos as well as the big drum in different tempos. So and the big drum, I don't know if you all know powwow music, but if you don't, Google it. It's a really large drum. Usually there's up to like, you know, 8 dudes sitting around drumming at the exact same time. There's often singing that goes along with it. This time I chose just to use the straight drum,
Mhm.
just to give me a little bit more sonic variety and capability, so I wasn't stuck to what he was doing vocally. And then this piece is a story, so it's got my wife in there telling the story of Mimico, and basically I just got her to tell me the story like 3 different times, and how she describes Mimico and how she describes the pigeons and how they relate to colonization.
Great, thank you. Uh, Something else I'm curious about, and in listening to your music and your playing, and we like to ask our artists about this, is was there a time that so, or a moment rather, where you really decided, oh, I want to write music, I want to be a composer, I really want to do this? Sometimes people hear something, they experience something, and they feel like they came online as a composer. Was there a precipitating moment for you like that?
I mean, there's a few different things. Like, um, I told my mom when I was 3 I wanted to play the flute. She got me a piano. Um, and when I was 5, I got a piano when I was 5. And by the time I was 7, my piano teacher was like, you're like, to my mom, like, you're wasting your money. She's terrible. She really is not great. And my mom was like super shocked because I was playing all the time. So my mom came to my lesson, and sure enough, I was sight reading those little baby notes and those baby chords, and like was looking down and like did not know a thing. And my mom was like, what have you been playing for the last month? And I was like, oh, it's my own piece.
Mm.
So I learned, I like, yeah, it's kind of been always that I've been creating music. And I got a degree in cello performance. I didn't take composition at all,
Mhm.
but I knew that I wanted to play my own pieces, but also play them really well.
Right. So composing was really your way into, your relationship with the instruments.
Mhm,
When you sat with the
exactly.
cello, or then
Yeah.
it was playing your own work, and I think technology has a lot to do with that. We think of you as someone who's really adept with using, blending. You're playing with
Mhm.
tech. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how you work with technology, and also we're excited always about the new. And so where do you see technology going for your writing and your playing, and is there anything coming around in the future with technology that you're excited about with integrating into your work?
I mean, I always like new toys. But like for me, they're all just, again, like I look at it all like a giant like palette. Like these are all just different tools that I can use to paint my own musical picture. Or or another way I like to use the analogy is like I'm like a jeweler, and I take all these different things that I like in sound and put it into a piece that only I can make and only I can create. And it's like my perception of the world allows me to create something completely original and completely new. And we all have this capability of doing that. And I think that's like super amazing. And I'm also like really into making music relatable and making music like um, something that can touch on a heartstring. You know, I do play the cello, so I like to make people cry.
Well, that I love what you said about being a jeweler, and creating sounds that only you can make. That's wonderful. Can you elaborate on that? I mean, what is the sounds that only do you like? We all composers, I think, have this in deep
Mm.
in them. They have this sense that only I can make these sounds, so I got to do it. I mean, are what are these sounds to you?
I mean, I think like it's definitely hard to describe in like a tangible way because
Mhm.
it's sonic and it's sound.
Sure, sure.
But I really, for me, it's like when I take my ego out of what I'm doing,
Yeah.
then that's when really cool stuff happens.
That's
Mm.
right. I mean, it is very hard to describe it because you're not writing an essay. You're using music to describe it, right? And there's
Exactly.
probably no way to describe it other than to do the music, but we can
Yeah.
try and um yeah, so I mean, what we hear is beautiful cello playing along with this 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 really cool tech that goes along with it and integrated in a very beautiful way, and like you say, in a way that brings people in, right?
Mm.
It doesn't it sounds very inclusive and brings people in right away in this very attractive, compelling way, which is really wonderful.
Yeah. And I'm interested in like, good stories too. And I think it's easy to forget the story part of the humanity part when we're at such a high level of creating classical music. It's easy to forget about humanity when you're trying to play the notes so perfectly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're entering a period, if where we can't just do notes and scales anymore that are beautiful on their own. We do have to tell human stories. We have these stages,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
need to be telling a human story with all of these in some way, and
Yeah.
that's so. Which is we're glad to have this, like this story of Omiimiikaa,
Yeah.
right? Which is a compelling and beautiful story on as well. So thank you for that. And just very quickly, maybe this will throw you a curve a little bit, but we also like to ask because we're all about the new. And so, what, Cris, in your world is new? Is there something that is new to you that you're excited about?
I mean, I didn't know iMovie until this project
Okay.
at all. Like, learned it in a day, and then it's pretty fun. Like,
Right.
I was super stoked on finding all the images. Like I said, I do sound design, so I knew I could find uh, pigeon images that are free source easily on the internet. And then I also spent a day running around Parkdale with my iPhone. And um, yeah, like I think me being able to like do the visual aspect of it was like so fun. Because I also work in like documentaries and film and TV stuff, but usually it's like the images come first and the music comes after. And this was, yeah, the other way around, where I like wrote the music first and then I was like, oh, look at this, look at this. So that was like super fun, and maybe I'll do more of
Great.
that.
So it's a whole new tool for future
It's a whole
works.
new
There we
thing.
go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cris. We're thrilled to launch our season with this new piece, this new commission
Amazing.
for Distance Ensemble, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have you with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
And we look forward to your new piece in a couple minutes.
Great.
Stay tuned, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
The word Mimico, it comes from an Anishinaabe word meaning abundant with wild pigeons, which actually means carrier pigeons. There are stories that the indigenous carrier pigeons were so abundant they would black out the sky in giant columns, and their flocks could be kilometers long and it could take a full day to pass by. But they're extinct now. The pigeons that we have now, they're domesticated. There's a story they came here with Champlain to be food. Domesticated and then abandoned to breed. They've been relegated to the city streets and forced to eat garbage, and their shit is actually acidic because they are forced to eat garbage. They're actually sweet and intelligent, and they make good companions. They are survivors of colonization, displaced by colonization. Not so different from us. comes from an Anishinaabe word meaning abundant with wild pigeons, which were actually carrier pigeons. And there are these stories that carrier pigeons were so abundant they would black out the sky, and their flocks could be kilometers long or take a full day to pass. They're extinct now. The pigeons we have are domesticated. There's a story that they came here with Champlain to be food, domesticated and then abandoned to breed, and they've been relegated to the city streets, forced to eat garbage. Their shit is acidic because they are forced to eat garbage. They're actually really sweet and intelligent, and they make good companions. They're survivors of colonization, displaced by colonization. Not so different from us.